pestis, 2,000 years older, 10,000 years older than we thought it was. Very fascinating.
What was it?
Okay.
Yersinia pestis, Black Death.
Oh.
Yeah, the plague.
Oh.
Yeah, that was one of the articles. All right, so we're live right now. I like to just throw that in there. Occasionally just throw the live thing on. We can edit out the noise later.
Oh, sure. 20 minutes after we've been on. Oh, by the way, mic's on, guys.
Like I did that one time.
Yeah. Like, fuck? The fuck are you talking about?
Oh, personally, I like the little throw-ins that you added on the first episode you both showed up in at the very end of the episode. I left those in case you're wondering.
Oh, delightful.
I don't think I've listened to it yet.
So listen to the last minute of the show right before it goes to Extro music, and your little "Al's a racist" comes in. It's fucking hilarious. So I was
forgot. Dude, I can't believe I need to listen to the whole show. I didn't even do that yet. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, it's funny because there's only 4 people that subscribe to this channel, and only 2 of us have watched the show. Which is funny because it has like 57 views. So, all right. So, are we ready to kick this thing off?
Sure.
All right. Disclaimer, this show is not for the faint of heart or the easily offended. The views expressed here are that of the show hosts only and not their wives, girlfriends, husbands, boyfriends, polygamous partners, employers, music artists, businesses, or anyone other than the Cognitive Dissolutions podcasters. The explicit tag is there for a good reason, so please proceed with caution. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Cognitive Dissolution Podcast, where we address the current issues of today with brash humor, skepticism, or aggression to invoke critical thinking in the masses. We take everyone's tightly held beliefs, match them up with current events, politics, and religion, then throw them to the fires of skepticism. We magnify the so-called logic and then blow it all up. There is no green zone of safety for a lack of critical thinking here. This is episode number 3, and your hosts today are me, Al, Joel, and John. We will be your tormentors. How you guys doing today?
I'm alive. How you doing?
Doing well. Joel, how about you?
Living the dream, brother.
Sweet.
So I think I'm working on my third cold of the year already.
Already?
Yeah.
2 back to back. Jesus.
I know.
Anything new with you, John?
Drama.
Drama. Gotcha. I know all about that. I had a little bit of drama and bullshit today myself. But you know what? Today's over. We're all together. Let's kick this thing off. So the topic of today was suggested by Joel, and we all agreed that it seemed like a good one. And it was a Seattle football coach who refused to stop doing prayer before and after the football games. You guys get a chance to follow up again, retouch base with that article, and get ready to give your opinions?
Yeah.
I've looked into it.
Okay. Well, let's start with you, John. Well, what is your take on it? Where do you stand with it?
Well, we do live in America. This is a free country. You have free exercise of your religion. I have my free exercise of my religion. But I have to stand in agreement with all parties on different levels. The practice in question does not appear to be forceful. It doesn't appear to be a requirement of any kind. It doesn't even appear to be organized. They're not pre-planning anything. I mean, verbally they may be pre-planning things, but we're not talking about them doing full-on rituals out there on a football field. We're talking about them getting together, putting their arms around each other, and saying a prayer.
Okay. Joel, what's your take?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that we need to consider here. One, that during those times, presumably he's being paid by the school to do that job. I assume that's the case with at that particular level of coaching. And so at that point, he is a representative of the school and the district at large, who had made it explicit to him before this got too out of control that they didn't want him doing that. I mean, his boss has said that that's just not something that we want you to do while you're performing your duties. So if you just look at it from that perspective, he just was not doing what his bosses had instructed him to do while they were paying him, which is
so let's
one way to look at
it. Let's at least establish that not a single one of us is against somebody from practicing their own religion. So we all support somebody's right to have their religion. And
Al, you're in and out here, but brother.
Really?
To me, I don't know. John, are you experiencing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn it. Well, I've got a solid connection. I don't know what's going on here. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just you turning your head a certain way or something. I don't know.
It sounds digitally glitchy though to me.
Yeah, that actually is that's Google Hangouts for you. It does that from time to time, and it does that on not just our podcast, but Aaron Ra was having the same issue on his podcast.
Do you think you can hit your points again, because they really did not come through at all?
Sure. So I think we can all agree that everybody should have a right to practice their religion in private, correct?
Yes.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. And the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibit the free exercise thereof, yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Joel, you had something?
No, I was just agreeing that with your two presentations.
So
I'll throw something in there. At this point, we're not talking about the government making a law about something. We're talking about a school official bullying a coach about something, and it's getting national attention. So,
well, no. Here's the thing. There's actually a clause in the school policies that actually quotes a U.S. Supreme Court case of Eggle v. Vitale. It's 370 U.S. 421 in 1962. And the ruling in 1962 by the U.S. Supreme Court declared prayers in public school unconstitutional. And the actual quote from the ruling was, and this case actually made it clear, quote, no school administrator, teacher, teacher's assistant, or employee of the school acting in their capacity, whether on school property or at a school function before or after school, to begin or end of a school day or school-sponsored participated activity, shall in no way lead, direct, instruct, or proselytize any religious views, prayers, or rituals. They may only be there as a chaperone and to ensure that religious discrimination does not occur. So that ruling was used in the school policies that this teacher, this coach, worked at. And in Yeager v. Douglas County School District, 862 of the 11th Circuit Court, ruled in 1989, and they let stand a lower court ruling in Georgia that pre-game and post-game invocations of high school football games are considered unconstitutional. In Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe, 530 U.S. 290, in 2000, barred student-led prayer at public school functions. So there's plenty of case law here by the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on the constitutionality of this issue. And this coach not only was in violation of school district policy, but of constitutional rulings by the U.S. Supreme Court. That's the concern. And when it was presented to the coach, the coach said, no, you can't stop me from praying with my students. Actually, yes, they can. They not only have a policy, but there are multiple rulings on the matter. That's the concern.
Well, if a student starts, does the organizing and wants to have a prayer, the teacher can join them, but the teacher cannot lead. I understand where you're going with this.
Actually, that is not true. I looked into the rulings and I looked into the case law, and the teacher cannot participate in any way, shape, or form. They cannot lead and they cannot join in later. That has actually been ruled on, and that was from the 1960-something ruling.
So you would stop this guy if the football team decided to go and have a prayer by themselves without him, and he stood there on the sidelines with his hands folded and his head bowed, and looked like he was participating, but he's just standing there showing respect. You would say that was a violation of that law?
No, he can do that. He cannot go over there and join in with the group or request voluntary participation in the prayer group that's participating. So if a student comes up to him from the football team and says, hey, I want to lead a prayer with the other kids prior to the game, the coach can say that's fine. And then he can say to his team, Josiah wants to lead a prayer. If you want to participate, feel free. I'll be over here if you'd like to stand on the sidelines.
See, and based on the letter of the law, I would say that him saying that is a violation of the law. I wouldn't want to have him say that. Just
okay.
Responding to Josiah, telling him, the theoretical Josiah, responding to him personally, hey, that's okay. And if Josiah asks, hey, can I get the other guys involved? I don't have anything to do with that, would be my response.
Can I ask a question? So I guess the question is, has it been defined clearly what constitutes participation?
Yes. Leading, joining inside the group. So if, in John's example, if he stood to the side and wasn't participating, crossed his hands and bowed his head, because there's a distance between him and the group of students that are actually doing the prayer.
Well, that's kind of a slippery slope too, because
it is. But
what about? Is it amount of feet? Is it like a restraining order? How does? I'd be curious to know how they would define that. Is it just subjective?
It would be subjective, or if a complaint came in that I believe that the teacher in plain view made me feel uncomfortable, then the teacher would have to be asked. You can't be that close.
So it would be, it would be more along the lines of we've received this complaint and we need to make a change. So whatever the situation or circumstantial particulars are, they would say, okay, we received this complaint. According to the law, we have to ask you to change in some way, and then you just kind of figure it out till they stop complaining, I guess.
Yeah,
about right.
Until the complaint goes away. Sort of like the principal that was trying to lead the prayer by the pole every day. It's the same concept.
Yeah. So we would agree that the coach is working is doing his job. He's an employee in that scenario.
Correct.
I wonder
if he is in his clothing for the game, or a suit or tie on his way into work. If the minute he steps on school grounds or the minute he steps on the field, he cannot participate in the prayer. He can supervise.
Still somewhat gray and subjective in some ways.
And that's why this issue is coming up quite a bit, is because some teachers are going, well, it's gray, so I'm going to participate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I, if you don't mind me just throwing out an imaginary thing that seems like it might be kind of a parallel. If he's working as an employee at that point, I wonder how people would feel about a situation that had nothing to do with even the public sector, but in the private sector, where, say, there was some store and several employees wanted to, in the very middle of that store, have their prayer, their 6 o'clock prayer to Allah or what have you. I mean, would they be within their rights to say that you have to let us do this in the middle of your store? Because it sounds like this was happening on the 50-yard line of the field, and I think that's a somewhat apt comparison. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
I don't know where John's going to stand with this, but the issue is the fact that it's a school and not a private business, so it's considered part of the state or state structure. If it was a private school, completely different.
But if your employer asks you not to do something, even in religious context, in the middle of their venue of operation, I think that they would have to not allow, the people doing the prayer wouldn't be able to do that in that context.
Employer law is different than school law, is the point that I'm trying to make.
No, I know that.
I thoroughly reviewed the school requirements and what they're authorized to do as a public school. I only know vaguely the employer law, and I would hesitate to even speak on that outside of, say, my business kind of thing. John, what's your take on it?
I only caught part of that. I was disconnected for a little while, but it sounds an awful lot like you're asking if the free exercise of religion means you can do whatever you want anywhere you want, and my answer would be no.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm saying is the particular location that this was occurring would be like doing this in the storefront of a store or something along those lines, and so I feel like it is a demonstration at that point. It is somewhat ritualistic in that it's taking place at a certain location and at a certain time. So I don't feel like it doesn't feel random to me. It does feel planned. And I mean, when you say that at this location at this time we're going to do this, that's a plan.
Yeah, but again, you mentioned slippery slope earlier, and that is a slippery slope. I mean, let's what I'm saying is a full-on ritual. Okay, let's flip this around a little bit.
Okay.
If Satanists decided to have their prayer time on the football field as well, and they brought a sword and a chalice and whatever else they want to use for their prayer, suddenly you're not
boiling babies.
Boiling babies.
That's
Cicerone virgins,
atheists.
whatever
That's
you
not
want.
Satanists.
Oh, I'm
Satanists
sorry.
don't boil babies. Atheists eat them.
What I'm saying is, if you're bringing
butter sauce
with you and you're making
Sorry, John. Go ahead.
If you're bringing equipment with you and making a full-on ritual out of it, that's not a spontaneous thing.
Well, and the Satanists weren't planning on doing that. They were just planning to come to pray with the student that requested them. So they were requested by a student of the football team to come and lead a prayer for that student.
Well, again, are we talking about bringing a sword and a chalice with us? I mean, I don't see these guys, the football coach, I don't see him bringing a 30-foot cross out there with him.
And neither were the Satanists. The Satanists were going to show up just in their traditional garb and hold hands or whatever and pray. They weren't going to do a big ritual out of it.
Well, see,
I'm not sure.
Garb might bother me too. It would bother me if a Catholic priest went out there on the football field in his full regalia. That would
bother me too, but for a totally different reason.
having those guys around that many young people. I'm having a tough time accepting what you're saying about whether or not they have some kind of inanimate object, because if the word that we're using here is whether or not it's spontaneous, well, by definition, if you are preconceiving a time, a place, and a thing to do, that's not spontaneous.
And the coach actually had it in his roster, scheduled before and after every game, that they were going to do a prayer for this time to this time.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So that's not spontaneous in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, let's look at this from a different perspective.
Shoot.
What if we reframe this practice of praying as public demonstration instead? they are demonstrating their devotion to what they believe to be their creator.
If it is just the students, that's not an issue, except for the Supreme Court ruling. It's the fact that it's physically being led, and he's admitted to leading the prayer, which is in direct violation of not only school policy, but the U.S. Supreme Court rulings.
What if it were a demonstration against the practice of religion? Would you want to restrict that?
It would
See where I'm
depend
going
on
with this?
It would depend on if it was religious in nature and what they were doing. If it was a teacher, I would have an issue with it.
Somebody demonstrating ISIS killing people in the Middle East could be said to be a religious demonstration.
I would have an issue with that if it was teacher-led, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, again, you're acting as an employee at that point. You have to for the most part, within the confines of your job, you've got to do your job while you're getting paid to do your job.
I think Thomas Jefferson said it best, and Thomas Jefferson being one of the foremost writers of participants of the Constitution and the template for freedom of speech and freedom of expression, freedom of religion, said that no citizen shall be compelled to frequent or support any religious worship, place, or ministry whatsoever, and that to compel a man to furnish contributions of money for the propagation of religious opinions which he disbelieves is sinful and tyrannical. And in a letter to the Baptists of Danbury, Connecticut in 1802, he said, I contemplate the sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people be declared that their legislatures shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibition or exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. As those, end quote, as those words resonate here, that coach, that teacher, that employee of the state is violating that separation between church and state and endorsing a religious... What?
You're going to have to explain that one, because he's not asking for money. Specifically what Jefferson was referring to was forcing people to attend a church, which happened a lot in the early 1800s and earlier. That's not what we're talking about.
No, we are, because they are essentially, that coach is forcing those students, even the ones that don't want to volunteer to participate, to feel ostracized if they did not participate in a religious practice for which they did not believe.
This is an awesome segue into shaming.
Well, hey, I want to throw something out here too. I feel like I'm cutting Al's point off, so maybe we can get back to it.
I don't want to get circumcised again.
I don't even think, and this is just for argument's sake.
That's something you can only do once, but anyway.
Yeah, well, I just want to send a shout out to my doctor. He did a great job. Looks great. Thanks, man. I've gotten lots of compliments, but anyways.
Now you got to send pics, you dirty bastard.
No. Just ask your mom for them. She's got some. But
why? When I can ask your mom next time I see her.
So I don't even think, like, obviously this coach is a Christian. I don't even think within the confines of his own religion that this is an acceptable thing to do. Just because, when I read Matthew 6:5 and 6, it says, "And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." So, I mean, even in the context of the New Testament, it sounds like this is not what is supposed to be done. This is not supported by the text.
That's a nice counterpunch, but let me point out that what Jesus was referring to was people using prayer or using their faith or using their free practice as an opportunity to make themselves more prideful, to give themselves something to be proud of. And that was never the point of
You're
what Jesus was trying to do.
up, John. You're going to have John again.
I can barely understand you. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm hearing John just fine. You're breaking up on your end, Al. I don't.
Yeah, you're all breaking up.
Okay.
John, are you breaking up to me? Am I breaking up to
I've
you?
got a solid.
I got you good.
Yeah. Likewise.
Okay, I've got you both now. And I had a solid signal. I don't know what the hell's going on with Google.
Let's do a
What were you
sound
saying,
check
John?
here. Al's a racist.
So Al,
Well played, sir.
what I was saying is that in that particular passage, in that particular portion of the narrative, what Jesus is referring to is people using their faith to make themselves prideful, to give themselves something to boast about. And
don't
honestly,
you think that's what he's doing?
I can
It
see
seems that way to me.
that may or may not be what the coach is doing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a part of the prayer. And really, honestly, from a Christian perspective, Christians have no business pointing that out to each other. That's between them and God. To point it out to somebody, that's being judgmental, and that's another something Jesus told us not to do. So,
Well,
yeah,
I just have one thing to say to these claims about Jesus. Were you there?
no, but I got the narratives of somebody who wrote it down. I don't know if they were there either. It really doesn't matter. It's just another story. It tells me something about somebody.
You obviously didn't catch the Ken Ham reference.
Yeah, I thought that's where you were going. Because that's Ken Ham's argument against evolution. You weren't there.
No, I get it.
I'm sorry.
And
I thought it was a good joke.
My argument in my defense on that is that I don't have to be there. I've got the archaeology to show it, and I don't have to have been there with Jesus either. I've got the history to show it. Whether the history is correct or not, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
It's a good story.
You've decided, or well, maybe I shouldn't make that claim. Christians have decided that is a historical document. So within that context, that's what they're basing their decisions on. So I see your point.
So here's a quote from the school regarding the position. Quote, individual silent personal prayer never has and never could be outlawed in public schools. The courts have declared that government-fostered prayers are unconstitutional. Those led, required, sanctioned, scheduled, or suggested by our officials. It is dishonest to call prayer voluntary that is encouraged or required by a public official, legislature, or school staff member. By definition, if the government suggests that students pray, whether by penned prayer or asking them to vote on whether or not to pray or set aside time to pray, it is endorsed or promoting that prayer. It would be coercive for schools to schedule this worship on an official part of the school day, school sports or activities events, or to use a prayer to formalize a graduation ceremony. Such prayers are more mandatory than voluntary, end quote. So even the school, quoting their own policies and government things, have said that they view what the teacher is doing is forcing prayer on the students.
Would you feel better about it if instead of calling it a prayer or instead of making it a led thing, what if they did over the loudspeaker, if they said, we're gonna take 2 minutes or 1 minute for a moment of self-reflection and personal spirituality?
I would have an issue with that as well.
Why?
Because it singles out those people that are in the audience, and you're going to have people going, "Why didn't you bow your head? Why didn't you bow your head?" to other students. It creates a caustic environment. It would be like if they came over the loudspeaker and said, "Everybody, we're going to go out in the field to conduct a prayer to Allah," and everybody that doesn't get up to pray to Allah is very visibly noticed. I
think we can debate how much pressure that would put on a kid who didn't believe or someone who didn't believe. We can debate on the on the continuum of how much pressure it is, but we certainly can say, I think, definitively that it's not zero pressure. And if it's not zero pressure, if it's not creating any kind of, if we can say pretty comfortably that it's having an effect of some kind, then that's, you just have to draw the line there. Just don't do it. It's just not that hard. Just don't do this thing.
It would be one thing if it was a private school. Say they went to Catholic Northern, and Catholic Northern had a priest come out and say, "You guys ready to pray?" Or went over the loudspeaker, "We're going to say the Lord's Prayer, the Lord's Prayer, or whatever you fucking call it." I wouldn't have an issue with that because it's a private school, privately paid, and it's Catholic.
Can I ask a question?
No.
So I have something I am curious about. I'd be interested to get your guys' take on is, I live right next door to Jesuit High School. Okay, I've never been to one of their games, but I do know one thing is that they don't just play other private Christian or what have you schools. They play Clackamas and Sunset and other schools that are public schools. I wonder if a public school team is visiting right over here at Jesuit High School, what happens with the law then? That is kind of.
If you are on private grounds, that private entity has the right to make the rules for their startup. So if you accept the invitation on behalf of the school to go over there, you got to play by their rules essentially.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
What do you think, John?
I'm game for that with one caveat. I mean, I know that this is a completely different topic, but what does that say for people who don't want to make cakes for gay weddings? What does that say for Hobby Lobby, who wants to make sure that they have a good Christian environment inside their store? It's private property. It's privately owned.
Well, here's the issue. It's because they are not considered a religious organization. They are a public business. If they were to get a, say it's part of a church, and they were to say we're a church-run organization, then yeah, you have the right to go, we're going to do a Christian prayer, or we're not going to bake cakes for gay people, even though all you're really doing is baking a cake. So I don't see the issue, but that's another topic. But since they are a public entity or open to the public, there are business rules that are already in place that say if you want to have your religious views, you can have your religious views, but you can't discriminate based on these rules: gender, sexuality, religious preference, etc. So you're telling me that if a Muslim came into the cake bakery and said, we want a Muslim cake, they wouldn't make a Muslim cake?
There was a guy right here in Grace Harbor County actually got in some trouble because he refused service to somebody who wasn't wearing shoes and wasn't wearing a shirt. It didn't make national headlines or anything, but it did make local news. The guy apparently was said to have been discriminating against this customer for his economic status.
Well, unfortunately, that's not marked as a protected class. So I'm sorry, but if there are cleanliness and sanitary laws in place that say no shirt, no shoes, no service, wear a shirt and shoes into the fucking store. I mean, there were times when I was a kid, I was thrown out of stores because I wasn't wearing shoes.
I'm just looking at the political situation. I'm seeing that kind of thing coming. I'm seeing the point where
it's two different things. One's not a protected class. One's a religious thing.
Way. I see it the same way. It's somebody. Okay, a religion is merely a venue for someone to practice their personal beliefs. Your personal beliefs are one thing. My personal beliefs are something else. We each have our venue within which we can practice those beliefs. When it comes down to it, though, and you start talking about the shaming, you start to, I feel like I'm being oppressed because you are doing your thing in public. how long is it going to be before you're not allowed to kiss in public because there are singles around? How long is it going to be before and I know this is a typical argument that conservatives use. I get that, but it really does concern me, not on the level of my religion, but on the level of personal rights and my ability to pursue happiness. My ability to pursue happiness is restricted by such laws.
No.
I don't know.
Preventing your ability to discriminate against somebody because of your fictional belief structure is not the same as persecuting you. Sorry, it just isn't.
No, I'll give you that. The thing with the flowers and the cakes, I think that's a load of bullshit. But,
Can I say here that the kind of probably obvious counterpoint to that, if you want to extrapolate as you're doing, is that if you do create more gaps within the separation of church and state, and then we do end up getting a religious context in more and more things. That's also a virulent idea too that can spread and create a lot of havoc. So you can extrapolate that way too.
Absolutely. And Jefferson was actually the historical figure that most people turn to for wisdom on this topic, and I can give you just as many quotes that defend people's rights of free practice.
Oh, and the issue is, it's not when you're a representative of government, either a teacher, a soldier, a congressman, you have restricted rights on some venues where you can't express certain ideas.
Because you're a leader.
Right. So the issue with the school is separate from a business standpoint, because the business has an ebb and flow. So the cake bakery was upset because they started to get boycotted. They lost business because of their decision. You had the right to express your religious views. They discriminated. They got sued. They lost. And then people boycotted their business and they felt persecuted. Well, you discriminated first. They were telling you can't discriminate, and you did. Now you suffered consequences of that action.
Hang on a minute. That has nothing to do with the law. That's just capitalism right there, man.
Well, and part of that is the law. Part of the law says you can't discriminate against those people coming into your business.
Well,
if you're open to the public.
Let me just say this. You have a right to take a dump, but you can't take a dump on the 50-yard line of a football field with a bunch of fans watching and expect that to be okay.
Oh, I certainly could.
I thought that was going somewhere, guys. I'm so sorry.
Comparing public prayer to public indecency and taking a dump somewhere is a little bit
derogatory.
No, I think it's perfectly matched, because I view religion as completely derogatory. So that's completely separate. I think they're perfectly matched.
Oh God, that went off the rails. So shaming. What do you mean I can't take a shit on the lawn? You're shaming me. It's persecution.
No, I just said I would be totally comfortable, and I think it'd be perfectly okay. Now, granted,
I think we'd have a podcast about why you would be perfectly comfortable sitting on a 50-yard line in a fucking high school football game.
I sit in the middle of a battle formation, completely exposed to everybody in command, so I'm not worried about it. Just saying.
Well, I guess. I don't know, man.
That went downhill pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Right down Al's leg. Okay, I think we've beaten this thing to a bloody pulp, unless anybody
John, you got
wants
anything further you want to add?
God loves you, man.
Which God?
The God.
Bless his heart.
Bless his little heart. Yeah.
Have you ever noticed when somebody says bless his heart or bless her heart, they're really saying that fucking cunt?
Oh, yeah, that's a known thing. That's what they're saying.
In Southern parlance, my wife tells me that it actually means that they're being stupid. So yeah.
Because there's a guy at my work. You know, he's a great guy. Love him dearly. And we won't say what he does, but every day I see him for the most part, unless he's off. And every day before he leaves the room, he says, "God bless you." So my immediate reaction is, "Hail Satan, have a wonderful day." We've never had a complaint against each other. Other people have complained against me. Nobody's complained against him. I've never gotten in trouble because he does it first. Wow. I think it's funnier than shit that the complaints are coming in. But
well, now here's the real question: do you really worship Satan?
I don't believe in Satan, but I am a card-carrying member of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey's church.
That.
Yeah, I was a card-carrying member back in '98. I have a red card and everything.
Okay, so if you don't actually believe what you are saying, then that means you are making fun of that guy.
No, that's not necessarily true, because the Anton LaVey and LaVeyan Satanism doesn't view Satan as an actual entity.
Yeah, that's true.
Granted, it's a concept, it's an idea.
Yeah. So saying "Hail Satan" is not necessarily making fun of him. It's simply acknowledging a counterpoint.
Yeah, it's a contrarian point of view.
That's all it is.
So you're doing it just to oppose that guy?
It's an opposition. I mean, it is, really.
It's an oppositional reference to get him to understand that what he is saying is not appropriate without being disrespectful.
Interesting.
So once he catches on and goes, "Why do you say that?" Well, because every time he says "God bless you," the way he says it and the way he voices it, he literally means "fuck you," and he's told other people that.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I get you. I'm tracking.
So I'm not trying to be rude to the guy. I'm being polite. Hail Satan. Have a good day.
It sounds like you are being rude to the guy, but all you're doing is responding in kind.
It's reciprocal.
So then it's not being rude. If I was disrespected first, I'm simply being polite in returning the favor.
Oh no, you're still being rude, but he was rude first.
Oh, I see how it is. I'm the fucking bad guy now.
but you're a first grader apparently, so it's all good.
Oh shit. So in reference to first and third graders, the other topic was South Park's reference in their video Safe Places.
Good
we all got a
segue.
chance to watch it?
We did. I did.
Good.
And what was your view on it, John?
Me?
Yeah.
What? Why is he going to go first again? No, I'm just kidding.
No,
Third graders, never mind.
I used to laugh at South Park a lot. I mean, when I was in my 20s, it was funny. It's pretty juvenile stuff, but it's
oh, come on.
The topic.
He's trying to.
Shaming is quite odious to me. You know, I don't think people should be shamed. Your personal opinion is personal. The minute you voice it, you're being influential, and if you're being influential, you're trying to teach somebody. That's just not. I mean, unless it's your kid, and if it's unsolicited, you shouldn't be trying to do that.
In the words of Christopher Hitchens, ridiculous ideas deserve ridicule.
Oh, absolutely. Good quote.
So somebody may view your ridicule of their ridiculous idea as shaming.
Nice.
Just a thought. What do you think, Joel? You think I'm full of shit again? Maybe I'm a racist.
I don't know. If you are full of shit, it's just a matter of time before it just goes on somebody's 50-yard line. But
I certainly have to poop. I'm just saying.
So, did it? Well, God damn it! You broke my brain. Third time tonight. Third fucking time. Judas betrayed me 3 times. Anyways, well, the thing that I feel like I'm totally just switching gears here, but did anybody see that the parallel stories here that they were doing? That it was, we had the kind of the fat shaming and the ridiculous lengths that you know, a lot of the what I like to call fake liberals, or as Dr. Boghossian, I think that's how you pronounce his name, calls them regressive liberals. What we had is this parallel between 2 stories of kind of a fat shaming sort of scenario, and then a different kind of shaming in that when Stan's dad was getting food at the what's the store called?
I can't remember, but the
Foods.
checkout counter for the kids who need to eat.
Yeah, give $1, and if they're kind of the idea is that they're shaming you into making you give $1, and then once you finally give in, then they're like, well, that's not good enough, and so on and so forth, and it snowballs. And I thought that was interesting how they really poked at liberals in a couple of different ways, or regressive liberals, as I affectionately call them as well. And I don't know, it was pretty funny.
Well, the idea of safe spaces, to me, harkens back to the Larry Niven quote I mentioned last time, the product of freedom and security is a constant. The more people want to feel secure in themselves, the less, first of all, the less free they are, and at the same time, the less free the people around them are. In this particular case, if somebody is telling you something for your health, like, hey, you put on a little bit of weight, that's more polite than what they were talking about in the show, of course, at South Park, but that can be seen as a form of fat shaming. You're telling somebody that they are fat. So I mean, where does that end? Do we just stop telling people, hey, you got a wasp on your face, he's about to sting you?
I've always believed in telling a truth that draws a tear than a lie that draws a smile. So if you're putting on fucking weight and I care about you, it is my job to tell you you're becoming a fatty. Also, in the reverse, if you are getting too thin, hey, Toots, put on some weight. You're fucking looking real thin. I'm getting concerned about you.
See, now,
that is also one of the reasons why I support religious people proselytizing to me. Because if they truly believe in hell and they're concerned I'm going to go there and they take the effort to try and convert me, I'm cool with that.
As long as it's not on a 50-yard line of a high school football game.
As long as you're busy taking a shit. Not an authority figure, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that one of the main concerns and the main sort of venues in which this is happening is in academia on campuses and such, where literally it's not about the people themselves, but about their ideas. We're conflating ideas and giving them the same rights as we do people, and that is incredibly dangerous, especially in venues in which the whole idea of being there is to evaluate ideas and to have the debates and figure things out. If one group can say, well, that idea is upsetting me, we can't talk about that idea, then we may as well just close the fucking doors and shut all the colleges down, because that's the whole fucking point, is to be uncomfortable and to be critical of ideas, yours and everyone else's.
That's a really good point, and this actually happened to me at the liberal arts college that I went to.
Imagine that.
The discussion came up of abortion, and in the middle of class, I was very quiet. I kept to myself until the teacher literally pointed at me and said, "You haven't said anything. What's your opinion?" And I told them I think that abortion is murder. I think that a woman's right is, a woman has a right to do with her body what she wants. She should be counseled that she is killing a child, but she should not be stopped from doing what she feels she needs to do. Literally, I think half the women in the classroom started crying because of what I had to say and got up and left the room.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, you just asked me for my opinion. I just gave you my opinion. You pointed to me and asked me for my opinion. And now you're telling me that I just offended half the class and that I need to leave the room, that I've done something wrong.
Did he actually tell you to leave the room for that?
It was a female instructor. She did not, but boy, she gave me some dirty looks the rest of the class.
Well, while I completely disagree with your sentiment, I completely support your ability to make it, 100%. So I just want that to be on the record there. In that context, you should have felt perfectly comfortable, so to speak, in expressing that opinion, because that's what, if you're having a debate, you can't have a debate without dissent. It's not a debate. It's just a fucking echo chamber, and I'm getting sick of echo chambers. I don't learn anything from echo chambers, and no one else does.
And I agree with Joel that, that teacher shouldn't have been giving you dirty looks, shouldn't have been upset over you giving your opinion. What she should have done is, if those girls came up to her and complained, this is what he said and I was hurt by it, okay, go talk to him. Be a fucking adult and go talk to him.
Be an adult, sit in your chair, listen to my opinion, let it boil your blood, and either keep it to yourself or refute my argument.
Exactly.
Well, no. I disagree with that, because if those girls were so hurt, maybe there was an emotional thing going on because they had an abortion that they wanted to keep, because of medical reasons they had to abort, they should have every right to get up and leave the room to cry for a little bit, but come back in and be a fucking adult.
You're talking about 20-year-olds, man. You're talking about kids who are just out of high school. I don't think a single one of them was over the age of 25.
One thing I would say, I support their right to leave. I do support their right to leave. To some extent, I find it's unfortunate that again, to kind of discounting the idea of some external trauma. I think it's unfortunate that they can't look at that as an opportunity to grow as a person and to become more tough. This world doesn't fucking tolerate pussies real well, so you gotta fucking toughen up. Or
what the fuck are you talking about? The world tolerates pussies all the time.
Well, and maybe that's a fucking problem, I mean, maybe that's part of the problem, is that we're creating these pussies and they're fucking replicating, and some of them are killing their fetuses, but not all of them.
So what does that say about shaming?
That was a bad joke.
I didn't recognize it as a joke. I recognized it as your opinion. So what does that say about shaming?
I think that again, you have to draw the line at ideas versus people, and their physical or mental characteristics. I think that's where the shaming line is.
I think that if you're offended over abortion, you shouldn't have tripped down my stairs.
Nice.
Too much?
Too much.
Sorry.
Too much, too late, kind of. Like, I'm just exhausted at this point, so. But what do you guys think about that? I mean, do you think that's a healthy line to draw? I mean, obviously, we can't shame someone that has some form of MR or some psychological or physical disability. That's not something really within their control to a greater extent. And one could make the argument for weight too, because it's not something that can instantaneously. I mean, there's so much that goes into weight problems, and I struggle with it myself. So,
the issue I have is restricting free speech. Everybody has the right to be a dick. Period. You have the right to be a dick to me over something we disagree with. We have the right to double team on John and make an Eiffel Tower. It doesn't fucking matter. The fact of the matter is, though, you need to be adult enough to go, all right, you were a dick. Those words hurt. I understand that. Even if you don't understand, if you're making jokes about somebody who's mentally disabled, yeah, you're a dick. But that allows the rest of us to see that you're that kind of a dick.
Yeah, but I mean, you've already though made the argument that not all speech is tolerable in every situation. So, I mean, we've already made that argument that you can't pray in a public. A teacher can't lead a prayer in a public space. I mean, we've already defined or redefined utter free speech.
Yeah,
right?
we've made boundaries to some degree, but those boundaries don't extend to the public sphere. They extend to entities of government, because those governments are supposed to be the representatives of all the people, all the constituents, not just the constituents that happen to agree with them. But in the public sphere, there is an open, broad case for protecting your right as an individual to be a dick, whether I agree with you
well, but
or
an
not.
entity such as a company or a college also has the right to say what's going to happen in the context of the running of their business or what have you. So I mean,
within bounds and reasons, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so hang on a second. So part of what we're doing here, and this is about to become an echo chamber, just fair warning. What's going on here is the rules of civility have changed. Okay, the internet has changed the rules of public civility. Children are growing up literally seeing trolls and thinking that that's okay. So some of these kids that I was going to college with literally had never read anything older than, let's say, early 1900s. So they thought that early 1900s literature was really, really hard to read. So I can imagine that they can't understand the Constitution, that they read that thing and it's just really, really confusing to them, that they can't pick up a copy of George Washington's Rules of Civility and understand what's going on. You know, I get that, you know, I mean, the placement of the napkin really doesn't fucking matter, but the manner in which you conduct yourself around someone else is important. And it's a matter of self-respect as well as respect for others. So what we're really talking about here is we're not really, it doesn't seem to me like we're really talking about what we say. It's a matter of how we say it. You're still allowed to be a dick.
And there's two sides of it too. There's the legal side of it, what's permissible by law, which is a point that I think Al's trying to make. And then I'm kind of more on the side of, you know, let's talk about just what we need to do beyond that as individuals, our responsibility to society and how we conduct ourselves. You know, I'm not going to tell people what that should be, but I think it's a reasonable discussion to have. As far as, you know, I think what is so lost, it seems to me, what is so lost on so many people now is the very concept of nuance. It's everything is this or that, or you're a Islamophobe, or you're whatever. There's no nuance. No one really seems to grasp nuance anymore, and to an argument. And I think that's, you know, unfortunate. And is it illegal to do that? No, but I think we should be able to have that dialogue.
Well, I agree. My concern, and John's right, this is becoming a bit of an echo chamber, so we may need to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Is the fact that at the same time we're teaching the consequential ethics of humanism, or in John's case, the Christian version of that.
Oh no, I would still call it humanism, but go ahead.
Okay. So I just didn't want to misrepresent your position. So the humanistic consequential ethics of you have the right to say this by law needs to be taught at the same time as, now this is the impact it's going to have should you do that.
Yeah.
So that each individual learns to gauge, I have the constitutional republic right to be this dick. Should I be this dick?
It's just like science. You know, doctors and scientists are not being taught to actually think about these things. It's not a matter of can I do it, it's a matter of should I do it. And that's endemic throughout society, not just, and that's what we're talking about, really. You know,
it is that kind of thing.
J. Robert Oppenheimer invents the nuclear bomb. He's part of a team, of course, but he invents a nuclear bomb. looks at his own work and regrets it.
Yeah.
What was his famous line that I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on?
Bhagavad Gita, and the line was, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
God, that's such a powerful statement. To use that kind of powerful verbiage on something that you created, that must have been a struggle inside of him. That I know I'm getting off topic here, but wow. Sorry,
Yeah.
Let's digress.
Oh, no worries.
It's like I say to the people that I work with. We don't learn anything from our successes. Everything that we've ever learned, we learn from our failures. He learned a huge lesson, and most people who get caught generally learn their lessons as well. Those who are geared or wired, who have been taught by their parents to learn from not being caught, of course, are going to. But again, I'm getting off topic too. Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Well, yeah, I think that I thought I was the only one ADD here, but anyways, I think it's important to remember that I totally forgot what I was going to say. So, hey, how's it going?
Tired.
Awesome.
All right. So
It is getting late.
yeah, it's getting late, and we've actually gone almost an hour.
Yeah.
So we've hit all the topics. You guys want to call it an end of the show?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I just want to say, people, quit being pussies. Just stop it.